Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. Make sure you're listening anywhere you get podcasts. And you can also follow me on the socials at MLU Pod. You can also subscribe to my monthly My Little Underground email newsletter over at peteraradio.com. And I also got a few playlists that I've been updating, and most recently I threw on some new tracks for Little Ass Songs, my Spotify playlist of songs no longer than 2 minutes. Well, actually just under 2 minutes. And you can check that out, peteraradio.com. And also, I will be returning to the WFMU airwaves once again this coming Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern, over at WFMU.org. You can listen to that worldwide. And today on the show, here on My Little Underground, we got Krystal McRae, the founder of Scenes from the Underground. And we talked about the documentary she was a part of, Sounds of Justice. Talked a little bit about diversity in the New York City DIY scene, safely going to shows, policing black music taste, and so much more. Please help me welcome Krystal McRae of Scenes from the Underground, right here on My Little Underground. Yeah, I'm so glad to bring Scenes from the Underground to My Little Underground. And I think
it's meant to happen.
Yeah, it was meant to be. So talk
really
to me about the genesis of this here website of yours.
Yes. So Scenes from the Underground is 4 years old, and it started in July 2017. So I don't know if people know this or not, but I had a music blog kind of prior to that, and wanted to be a music journalist, and wrote about bands in college for my school newspaper that I was the editor-in-chief of. And after the last blog, I was like, I'm probably gonna take a break, and then I kind of did for like 2-3 years. And one night over dinner, one of my friends was like, you just know a lot about music and bands, and you love this, so why are you not writing about it? I was like, oh, I don't know. And then one weekend I was like, you know what, fuck it, let's just do it. So Scenes from the Underground was born July 5th, 2017. She's 4. And I focus on bands in NYC and bands out of NYC. So the tagline for the site is covering bands in NYC and beyond. And it's been kind of crazy, I think, having a music blog and a site as more of an adult, because now it's like you have more of a focus, and like you kind of have more of your own rules, and it's like you don't answer to anyone but yourself. And I'm the sole writer, sole person behind it. It's always crazy when bands like email, they're like, hey y'all, and I'm like, it's just me, hey, what's up?
I get the same thing. Yeah. Because sometimes my brother will, like, when I used to do in-studio interviews and My Little Underground sessions, my brother would take pictures. And sometimes he's a guest on the show. And he does the intro music to this show. So, you know what I mean? So people usually like put us as a collective. But it's really, I do everything. Logo and etc. It's all me. But
photos, and I mean, you have to. I think that's the beauty of a DIY, either site or podcast. You have to wear different hats. Like, there's no excuse to not wear different hats. Like, you have to.
Yeah, tell me if you feel the same way. But the artists that we're talking to, they're on their DIY path, and we're connected to them. So we're also on the DIY path. We're doing the same thing. We're just achieving different goals, but we're doing the same exact thing. We're doing it ourselves, our way.
It's true. And it's also interesting too, seeing how the site has evolved. So it's crazy where, I started out writing about my friends' bands, and now I have like bands emailing me, and then it's like I've interviewed bigger bands, and then I throw shows, and it's like, wow, like, this is like building a brand. And then I started the Instagram account for this maybe 2020, so right before lockdown. So I mean, social media, writing, editing, emailing bands, all that good stuff. So it's definitely a passion project. It's a project. And I think that, if people want to be in DIY and want to run their own sites and podcasts, you gotta put the work in. There's no excuse.
Yeah. You being a native New Yorker, was your first foray into the New York underground music scene?
Oh God, probably college. So I was a late bloomer going to concerts. I didn't go to my first concert until I was 18.
Same.
And for me, it was Vans Warped Tour.
Wow.
In 07, because I had just graduated high school. I was going away to college and I had a summer job. I had my own money. So I was like, my friends and I were like, we graduated high school. My friend's little sister was still in high school, her friend. So the five of us went to Warped Tour. And then I think like maybe sophomore, junior year in college, when I was home for the summer, I would like, see what was going on. And I was working at a day camp and I was like, oh, I'm home for the summer. Let's see what's going on. And then Best Buy, believe it or not, I don't know if you're a New Yorker or not. I think you are.
I am, yeah.
Best Buy, remember when Best Buy used to do music, like in-store music sessions? Do you remember this?
Where? The Best Buy, I'm from Long Island originally.
Gotcha.
The Best Buy in my neighborhood, they had video game tournaments, but I never seen a music thing happening.
I'm pretty sure it was Best Buy Union Square.
Oh, I see.
Used to do music. So I remember, I think might have been 08, 09 maybe, like going to see like a band called The Constant at Best Buy. And I was like, wow, this is really awesome. Like, this is really cool. And then summer 2010, so the summer before my senior year of college, I did an internship at a music venue called The Living Room, which unfortunately no longer exists. It makes me really sad to think about. And that kind of opened the door for me to CMJ, College Music Journal. And from then it was just that kind of, I guess like, I won't say fully solidified, but definitely helped solidify my love of music. And then also got me into special events. So I had like a 2-in-1. It's like, all right, how do I mesh the two now? So I worked CMJ for 5 years. And then just was exposed to just so much music and different venues. And like, I remember going to see shows at Niagara and the East Village and going to see shows at Bowery Electric and, Bowery Ballroom and Highline Ballroom. And I was like, wow, okay. And also that kind of solidified the fact that I wanted to be a music journalist. I want to be a music writer. And that was like 10, 11 years ago, 12 years ago.
Wow. You see, well, with the CMJ thing, right before NACC took over as the foundation of college music distribution. CMJ definitely shaped, my music taste too. A lot of artists that I love now came from that regard. But for your site, as far as covering artists, right? Yeah. Do you like, for me, with My Little Underground, most of it, actually all of it, is just artists I like, music that I really like listening to. Yeah. Is that the same for Scenes from the Underground? Do you just focus on artists that you like and you would listen to and that you would just share with people?
So it's a combination of two things. It's bands that I like that are good musicians, but also bands that are good people. So I am very intentional about who I interview, who I write about, who I talk to, because number one, I'm like maybe like one of the only Black girls running a music site in New York City. And number two, it's just like, to me, it's not enough to have a band that's just talented. It's not enough to me. I want to know where your heart is. I want to know where your head lies. I want to know what you stand for off stage. Because a lot of people have stage personas, and that's fine. But who are you off stage? Who are you when the lights are dim, when you're not, playing to a crowd of 200 people, or when you're not drunk and crazy? Like, who are you really? And I think a lot of the bands I cover are people that I have gotten to know personally, or people that I've seen enough times where we have rapport. And for me, it's just, that's kind of my ethos, is good bands and good people, Yeah,
I'm the same way. There's some artists that I've covered, when I used to do college radio, and especially when I started doing My Little Underground, there's a lot of artists that, wouldn't necessarily make my top album lists of the year, but they're great people. You know what I mean? You've covered Desert Sharks in your site. I've interviewed Desert Sharks in college radio. They're just great people. They're the nicest people.
Stephanie and I talk frequently, and I love They are. I love those girls. I love their record label, Substitute Scene.
Yep.
Obviously Niloceros, I adore to no end. If you haven't interviewed them, you have to get them on. Mike is a peach and a half. There's no shortage of good bands and good people in the scene. You have to look for it.
That's it. And especially when you meet these artists at the shows, you really get to know them as people. Like I think it's a great feeling when you meet an artist on your scene that's like really nice, and you would want to hang out with them, outside of that. You know what I mean? It's just a great feeling. So is there any artist band that you would write up that you don't necessarily like their music, but there's something about that artist that is appealing to you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, see that's hard, because I feel like I would be doing a disservice, because I can't honestly write about something that I don't like, because I'm I'm really blunt. Needless to say, though, I would never write anything negative. I just wouldn't cover it.
Yeah, that's my philosophy too.
I feel like that's just like the polite thing to do. Like, if I don't like your music, but you're cool, I just can't cover you. I might drop it on the Instagram story, be like, hey, this record came out today, but I don't know if I can cover it. I'm pretty honest. So yeah.
I don't know if you've been through this, but just on like my regular Instagram page, it doesn't have anything to do with podcasting or whatever. I talk about my podcast there, but if I'm listening to an artist and I share it on a story or whatever, just because I'm literally listening to it and enjoying it, some people get it fucked up. Like, oh, can you promote my music on your page? And I say, hell no, I don't do that. You know what I mean? Like I just talk about the stuff I like, because I don't know. Have you gotten that? if people like DM'd you saying, hey, can you like talk about my song on your page or whatever?
Not so much that, but I will have bands send me an Instagram message to cover it on the site. And then I'm just like, shoot me an email instead.
I do the same thing.
Because to me, it's more professional. Like,
exactly.
Sliding into DMs is so 2010. Just shoot me an email.
This ain't Tinder. You can't do this on here. You know what I mean?
It's not Tinder. It's not Tinder. It's not OkCupid. Just shoot me an email.
No, absolutely.
That's why I have 2 different email accounts. It's why I have 2 different Instagram accounts. Like, shoot me an email. It's I'm probably gonna respond to it quicker anyway.
Yeah. So when it comes to your site, in regards to metrics, right? Each of your posts, are you looking at them and saying, okay, the band that I talked about, or this particular subject that I wrote an op-ed about, this is getting traction, maybe I should start talking about this? Do you think of it that way? Or is just like, whatever's on my mind, whatever I feel like talking about, I'm just going to put it out. I don't give a shit about who's clicking on it.
I normally don't give a shit. It's whatever, because it's my site. You know what I mean? So whatever I feel like writing about, whatever I feel like covering, if it does well, awesome. I would love it if bands shared stuff more when you did cover them, because some bands are great at sharing stuff and some bands are not.
Hell yeah.
And it's and in a way it's a little frustrating, because we're independent, blogs and podcasts. So it's like, like, we're doing you a solid when we could be covering something else, and then you don't really share it.
Yeah.
So I don't really follow metrics in that sense. I follow metrics based on who's sharing and who's who I've covered, kind of thing. Some bands are fantastic with it. Some bands could do a little better.
How I used to think that way too. Sometimes I stopped doing this because it got corny for me. Like when I drop an episode of my show, like I would email the link to the bands, like, hey, if you want to share it. I stopped doing that because I learned about this thing called SEO, search engine optimization. So if I put the band name on my website link or whatever, when people search for it, you search an artist on Spotify that you interviewed, you get the music and you get the podcast that you did. So you can share it or not. People are going to find it. Your listeners are going to find eventually, probably, hopefully.
Like, if people want to find it, they will.
They will,
and
exactly.
I post on the Scenes from the Underground Instagram. There's the link in the bio. Sometimes I'll put it on Facebook, depending on what it is, but social media is a very strange game to play sometimes. So it's like, well, you got to play it. So
Yeah, you play for a while. You know, some people play too much, but you just gotta. You know, I told other radio personalities that hate social media that make great content. I tell them, listen, just post it up and it disappear. That's all you can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't sit here and count likes and follows because otherwise you would go insane.
You go nuts because it's not designed for you anyway. It's designed for you to pay more for likes or whatever, visibility. Right. So your site, you know, Scenes from the Underground, you know, you're doing a lot of premieres and op-eds. So yeah. Did you ever think about doing news based content or not? You're just gonna stick to what you're doing?
I feel like, so I actually really like news writing. I went to school for communication and journalism, actually, which probably explains my writing style, and just being a writer in general. But I don't know. I haven't really thought about more news-centric music writing. I do like covering things. I like dropping things, and I like op-eds. But maybe one day. We'll see. We'll see.
I read your op-ed about, you know, discovering music through, you know, music sites. You said a lot of interesting things, especially about not wanting to sit at anyone's table. And yeah, I've seen in the past year or so, you know, artists, you know, calling out certain music blogs that cover more white artists. Do you feel that, you know, any kind of POC music, talking head, etc., do you think they should just, okay, listen, do your own thing, you do you, and not want to just call out all these sites? Or do you think it's important to call out these sites of their, you know, lack of diversity? Or is it just cool to just do do what you want to see in the world, in the music world? Does that make sense?
Yeah. The thing is, though, I feel like we've seen, well, I know I've seen people over the last year be like, we're going to be more diverse, and then nothing's changed. Like, nothing has changed. And I feel like if you really want to shift the tide, you have to have these conversations, right? So if you have it in you to call out music sites for not being diverse, do it. If you don't have it in you, but you yourself are making the active decision to like be different and go against the grain, do that too. I feel like it depends on the person, because not everyone can call it out, because then it's just more emotional labor on being a person of color. And how is that fair to us?
Yeah, it's like a white person coming up to you and them asking you to explain racism to them. Like, what is and what isn't racist? I'm like, well, I'm not an expert on racism. This shit was put upon me. You know, I'm the victim of this. So why are you asking me to explain this to you? You know, but my mentality, maybe you're the same way, you know, you could disagree, but my mindset is like Black Wall Street. You know what I mean? I'm just going to be a platform for Black artists, not exclusively, obviously, but I think about, I want any Black artist that drops a new single, whatever, I want them to come on the show. If Pitchfork, if Stereo Gum, if Consequence, if they're not covering them, fuck them. Let them not cover it. I'll cover them. You know what I mean? Right. That's how I think. That's
true. That's very true. And also, those sites have already shown you who they are. I'm not knocking any of them. I think they're great sites.
I like them too.
I like them. But, you know, if these major sites are still kind of like behind on the grain and not catching up, that's on them. But I think for the rest of us, you know, I mean, I feel like we kind of have it in us to be more intentional, because we know what it's like to be left out constantly. So there's that.
Yeah. And I think that artists, at least, you know, there's certain artists that like want the right interview, the right conversation, or with the right amount of following. Yeah. But, you know, if you're artist of color and you care about, you know, artists getting coverage in certain press outlets, you should find Black artists, Black, you know, writers and talking heads, and see what content creators, see what they're doing, and you link with them, and then you have this community. If you're going to complain about lack of diversity in that space, but I think that's the way to go about it. But if you just want to be famous and you want the right following, that do you, but don't say, hey, oh, no one's talking about artists that look like me. You got to do, you got to find the people that look like you that are talking about people that look like you, if that makes sense.
Right. And the thing is, though, people need to realize that we're here. We're not hiding under a rock. We've been here. Like, it's just everyone else, for some reason, is still behind and needs to catch up. It's like, what are you guys doing? But yeah, it's definitely, it's true. It's like, I feel like artists need to seek out the proper outlets for them, yes. But also, I think the smaller outlets are the ones that are leading the pack and doing the most in the best way possible and like showing you what's really happening and what's really new.
Yeah, like, they want to be cool. They want to find the cool.
Exactly. But here's the thing, though. It's like, if you want to find the cool, that's great, but just know that it's not going to last long.
Yeah, that's true.
For example, I think it's really cringeworthy right now, the fact that we're seeing all these articles about, or not even articles, I guess, like, well, yeah, maybe articles, like about how pop punk has changed, right? Oh, man. So
I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
People are like, Machine Gun Kelly is saving pop punk, and I'm like, he's another white boy in the scene. Just because he's with Travis Barker doesn't make him like a pop punk god, you know. But then you see articles that are like, oh my god, like so and so, like meet me at the altar saving pop punk. And while that is partially true, it is they are shifting pop punk, right? Because pop punk has been overwhelmingly white for so fucking long. And now we're seeing a new class of bands of pop punk and color that are shifting the scene. Now, to me, one of the issues with these articles is the fact that no one's really talking about how genres don't really die; they just kind of shift. So the genres are here. It's just we're seeing a shift now that's been long overdue, like way too long overdue. And I would like to see more articles kind of address that and how we have representation that for us, like in our 30s or whatever, like we didn't have like 10 years ago. You know, like we have like the Lindas, we have Meet Me at the Altar, we have Action Adventure, we have In the Morning, we have Pink Shift. We have all these bands led by amazing people of color and BIPOC folks that we didn't see 10 years ago, and now we're seeing it, and now they're shifting the scene for the better, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's cool on labels like, Fueled by Ramen to ink a band like them. Meet Me at the Altar. You know what I mean? I think that's really cool. Hopefully their tours, they're not the token Black or BIPOC artists. You know what I mean? I don't want to see, because I'm seeing some of these lineups and they're the only ones that, you know what I mean? And then like when No Name was talking about pre-COVID, she talked about how her audience, or the people that are paying tickets, were mostly white. And it's because of ticket pricing and everything like that. It alienates people. So I want to see, like, we'll see if the industry will, notice that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see. But I do think, to what you're talking about, I think it's absolutely ridiculous and ignorant to paint these artists as these, like it's a new thing. Like it's just, oh my God, a Black woman doing some a different brand of punk music. Oh my God, I don't know my history. I've never seen this before. Doesn't make sense to me at all.
I was like, stupid. Someone doesn't know about Sister Rosetta Tharpe and Big Mama Thornton real quick. Like, drop a history lesson.
They don't know about Death. They don't know about Pure Hell. They don't know about Bad Brains. So, you know what I mean?
X-Ray Specs.
Yeah. Yep.
Chuck Berry.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Junior Kimbrough. That's pretty obscure, but anyway, But yeah. So when it comes to Bandcamp, right? Because Bandcamp has been doing a lot of great things the last year and a half. Do you think has this been a good tool for music discovery for you personally?
So for me, this is going to sound bad. It's probably been more Spotify, but obviously Bandcamp, you can buy music on Bandcamp. So if I like a band enough, I might find them on Spotify, or they might pop up in that playlist because, Spotify, their playlist, they love it. And then it's like, oh, well, Bandcamp Friday rolls around. Let me go buy music from this artist, or buy music from my friends, or buy merch from this person. And it's like, yeah, like this is this is awesome. And I'm hoping Bandcamp Friday continues for a very long time, because let's be real, just because people are touring and people are out, the scene's not going to recover like just like that. You know, we're seeing the starts of some recovery, but it's not going to be like a whole quick recovery, especially when you do have bands who are canceling tours now because people are getting sick or someone's recovering from whatever, where people are nervous about COVID. It's like, you know, I think that we have to realize that just because people are touring, things are not okay in the industry or the scene yet.
Right. And I'm really liking how certain artists being more proactive in that regard. Like Pom Pom Squad dropped off a certain leg of a Bully tour they were supposed to do because they were just, listen, we don't want to get sick or nothing like that, which is dope. And they pointed to their Bandcamp page, so help us out, so we can eventually tour, when it's safe, which is great. It's a good tool for them to make a little bit of scratch, because Spotify, the big three streaming services, these artists ain't getting paid barely a penny. So if I buy one song for $1 on Bandcamp, they're gonna get that dollar or a good portion of that dollar. You know what I mean?
Right. And even just buying merch from people and like, and if you are able to go to shows in person, do it. Buy a few things. Buy things for your friends. Buy things for your mom. Like, because they're still coming back from it too. And also, bands need to record new music, so this is helping them pay for recording time.
Yep. Yeah. If they're not doing, I know artists and bands that recorded albums in their living room, but not everyone's gonna do that. But tell me about your Musicians Corner series on IG Live and why you went about this, and is it because you're trying to flex your interview muscle? What I mean by that, you're trying to work that out, to get really good at it.
So Musicians Corner kind of started in May. I think for me, it was just a way to connect to artists that I liked and up and coming artists that are not in New York. Obviously I had I Lost on who are New York based, who I adore, but I got to talk to Lindsay from Girl Band, who's from NOLA, Ergo Bria, who I think is from Nashville, I think, and then Shauna from We're On a Women, who I adore to no end, and Randy from We Were Sharks, and Amanda from In the Morning, just talking to just these artists that are up and coming and that caught my attention. And I was like, y'all need to listen to them. I remember when I first heard This Is Your God Idols out of North Carolina, and seeing that it was a whole band of Black folks playing in a hardcore band, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And then I had Ernest and Erica on, and we had obviously all the interviews are fun and amazing, but it's just talking about things that, at one point the interview got a little ridiculous because we were talking about worship breakdowns in a song, and it was just really funny. But yeah, it was a way to just connect with bands that are up and coming that I think that people should know, and it's kind of hear their stories and hear how they started and what's next for them and just all these things. And it was just really fun. And yeah, obviously I want to bring it back at some point, and we'll see. I have in mind who I kind of want on the next few guests, but it's just getting them because people are touring. So
yeah. What have been some roadblocks that you've went through as far as reaching out to artists?
Well, I think internet connection has been one of them, because in Instagram Live connection is not always the best. But I don't think I've really had major roadblocks. Everyone I've talked to was pretty willing and able, and we made it work. And it was great because we're talking about touring, after COVID, and new songs, and talking to Shauna, we were breaking down some of the songs off Wonderful Hell that came out last fall, and just all these things, and it was just really, really awesome. And yeah, I can't wait to kind of pick it back up again and hear more stories and talk to people. And it's funny because when I do those interviews, the first question I usually ask the artist for anything else is, how are you doing? And I feel like that's such a powerful question to ask, because I think that we forget artists are people too, and they're human, and they have real emotions, and they've been dealing with shit too. So we have to kind of break it down a little bit. So
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Like when I used to do in-person interviews, the first thing, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You
yeah,
all right? I mean, are you
yeah,
caffeined up? If you need to get some caffeine, some water, go ahead.
got you.
Have, whatever. I don't really care.
Yeah,
Do you. I want you to feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
yeah.
This is, maybe you've been feeling this too, like pre-COVID. I've been noticing a
Right.
lot of things about the New York music scene. When I look at the bills, I see,
They're hella white.
yes, and I
Bread and
just
white rice.
I can't, like, even bands that I like, they're sharing bills with people. Like, I don't even want to go to the show because I'm like, I
It's
can't.
literally white bread, white milk, and white rice on a bill.
It's too much. It's
It
too much
is.
for me. Like,
It is.
how did you kind of like, how did you kind of like, deal with that? Did you just not go to shows, or did you just want to go
Oh, I went
see?
to shows all the time.
Okay.
But here's my thing. Okay, so I always went to shows with people, well, with smaller shows anyway, right? Like I'm not talking about pop punk shows and bigger shows and bigger venues.
Me
But
neither.
like
Yeah, and generally speaking.
smaller shows,
Yeah.
I generally tend to stick with bands I know and I
Yeah.
trust. And I feel a little safer, and sometimes it's weird looking around and being like the only brown girl at a show, and you're like, where's everyone else at?
Yep.
But again, there are people that are good people, and that if something were to happen, it's like I would expect someone to say something, and I would trust that someone would be in my corner. And actually, people have. Actually, I threw a holiday showcase, my first holiday showcase a few years ago, and it was at Hank's Saloon, which R.I.P. Hanks, I miss it. And I'm watching my friend's set, and my friend's wife like pulls me to the side, and she goes, "Do you know this guy?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" There was a random drunk dude like dancing behind me and being weird and trying to dance on some of the other girls. And I literally like went and like told the door woman, Allison, who's a peach, and then my other friend went and told our sound guy, and we got the guy thrown out of the show.
Good. Wow.
Because that's fucking disgusting. And
Yeah.
you can't even like enjoy yourself like at your own showcase without some mediocre cis ass white boy being gross. Like, come on.
No tolerance for that.
None.
Yeah, so your documentary, Sounds of Justice, right?
Yes.
How did you go about filming this? Like, because I'm guessing that you did this during, the last year or so. I'm sure that was very difficult to like at least capture some B-roll footage, because I was watching some of it, and there was some really cool shots on from a subway car. I'm like, how did you do this when everything is happening? You know what I mean?
Right. Some of the generic B-roll is probably my editor and director, who is a professional video editor in real life. So Sounds of Justice kind of was born last fall. My friend and I started talking about doing a documentary, and she came to me about this, actually, about the New York City punk scene and like what needs to change post-COVID, because shows weren't happening. People had a lot of time to ruminate on things that were wrong in the scene and wrong in society, set against this backdrop of like America's long overdue racial reckoning. And, we got to well, obviously on Zoom, but we got together on Zoom, and we started talking about who do we want to interview and who do we want to talk to. And we came up with our 4 subjects, and they're all people that we respect highly, we adore as musicians, as people, allies. I mean, Honey Child was part of the Sister Girl riots in New York City in the 90s, which was basically like the black women kind of, doing their own Riot Girl movement, because Riot Girl was very white and kind of left out Black women. And, Kate, who's a fantastic drummer and photographer, and, helps run Punk Island, and, Gayla, who is just a badass drummer as well, and, helps run Punks of Color. And then Mike from Niloceros, who was like the ultimate ally and friend. And we had our dream team of interviewees, and we did the interviews over Zoom. And, we wrapped interviewing in January, and we didn't release this until July because it took us that long to get everything done. because the team is only like 2 of us. So we did it. So we did our documentary, and I hope people have watched it. I hope people have listened. I hope people have taken everything that everyone said into account and are really trying to make the scene better and safer for people of color and marginalized groups and oppressed groups. And now here's kind of, here's kind of where we're gonna see what happens, our lineup's getting more diverse in the scene. Are people taking things more serious? Are people really trying to like, stop sexist and racist and homophobic behaviors at shows now? Like, the thing is though, like it was happening before a little bit, but now it's like, all right, you had a year to think about this now, so do something.
Everybody who posted a black square, let's see what you're gonna do when it comes to booking shows,
Like, were you all just chasing clout last year because social justice was a trendy thing, while for many of us, this is our reality on a daily basis? What are you doing now?
There's one thing that you talked about in Sounds of Justice that was, something I've experienced. I'm sure a lot of other, people of color that listen to different things. That's outside of the quote unquote urban genre sphere, if you know what I'm talking about. As far as policing black taste, all the times that you've been like, covering artists, how many times have you had the conversation of, wait, you listen to this? Why do you listen to this and not that and this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I've had it from the standpoint of, oh, like this person will be like, oh, like, isn't this band great? And obviously they don't know me and I don't know them. And I'm like, yeah, this band's fantastic. And not realizing that, first of all, are you saying this to me because I'm a Black woman at a punk show? Are you saying it to me because I'm a female at a punk show? Are you saying it to me because you're just dumb? Like, I mean, it could be a million different things, I remember growing up in, obviously New York City, good old New York City public school life. I I loved the boy bands and I liked rock music. And, I remember getting called an Oreo in school for this. And, like 20, 19, 18, 20 years later, it's like we're seeing representation of people that look like us on stage. So now it's like, oh my God, like this is so cool. So it's like all people that called me an Oreo in school, it's like I was ahead of the curve. Y'all were just late. That's how I see it. I was ahead of the curve. Y'all are late. But yeah, the policing of Black taste. It happens. It should not be happening. It's disgusting and it's disturbing. How do you literally police Black taste when Black folks laid the foundation for rock and roll in all genres of music? Actually, like how do you police that? Like, come on.
You just don't know your history if you don't say things like that. When you listen to the radio, right, you hear there's certain radio formats that are designed for certain groups of people, like urban is, oh, Black people like this. Black people listen to soca, reggae, and hip hop, R&B exclusively. But then you have the other radio formats, alternative, etc., as mostly white people playing it and programming it too. So it's like, it's almost like media conglomerates are like, Black people, you listen to this. White people, you listen to that. If you go to a Modest Mouse show or a Cage the Elephant show, you're going to see only certain groups of people, and it's really sad. And that's why we need people like us to really showcase that you can doesn't matter what you look like, you can like whatever you want. And if you know your history, you know that this music, the loud guitar stuff, is Black shit. It's the blackest thing you could ever do.
Yeah, it came from us.
Yep.
I also and I just think policing music, just comes out of ignorance and comes out of stereotypes and microaggressions, and it's shameful.
Yeah.
Like I'm a Black girl who grew up on gospel music, 90s hip hop, and then when I found like pop punk and punk rock in like between fifth and seventh grade, and then like 8th grade and 9th grade, it just like exploded because Fuse. So I got exposed to Green Day and MCR and like The Used and like Paramore. And those are all bands I still love to this day because I just related to it. Like I related to feeling like an outcast, and it was just I felt it. And
Yep.
now it's like, talk to me about Nova Twins, talk to me about Big Joni, talk to me about my favorite Bikini Kill song, talk to me about like my favorite like My Chem song still. I'm a fangirl, don't hate me. You know, just all these things. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna like whatever I want to like because there's no rules.
Nope, not at all. Tell me some of your favorite albums of the year so far in 2021.
Oh Jesus. I really like the We Were Sharks record, New Low. I think it's a brilliant record. It's a great pop punk record. I love Frank Iero. His Heaven is a Place. This is a Place EP that came out back in January. I think it's just a brilliant collection of songs. Even though there were songs left over from his last record, Barriers, the way that Frank writes and he thinks, I just think that it's just genius. I am looking forward to the Now Losters record coming out in 2 weeks. They worked really hard on that record, and that record deals with like the kind of like the de-evolution of society and what happens when we're gone. And I think it's just going to be a brilliant record and very timely. Oh God, some records are from last year too, so I can't even like really like. Favorite. Oh, well, EPs.
Yeah, that counts too.
Okay, awesome. Crowd the Airwaves. If you don't know who they are they're from New York City as well. Love them as well. Their 2-song EP, Nihilist, is just brilliant. And again, also a very relevant and timely record. And the fun thing about that record is those songs were not written in 2020. Those were older songs they finally recorded and kind of reworked. And I was like, this is very fitting and timely. And I feel like with musicians, it's like, if you have like a song that you've had for like a few years, you know, maybe we work it and record it finally, and then you put it out and it's like, wow, this is so appropriate for now. It's like, I mean, it's just genius. Jigsaw Youth from the Mud demos, love them too. They're from Staten Island. It's just kind of it just gives me like very kind of like gritty, like industrial goth vibe. It's just brilliant. What else am I liking so far? Oh man, I don't even know. I mean, there's some favorite songs, some favorite music videos. It's just it's definitely a lot to kind of take in.
Of course. Yeah. Tell people where they can learn more about Scenes from the Underground, how they can watch Sounds of Justice. Plug away. This is your time.
Yes. So Sounds of Justice, you can search for us on YouTube at Sounds of Justice. Also, I'll put it back in the link on my Scenes from the Underground Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Scenes from the Underground. Kind of one long word. And if you want to follow my personal Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram at Cami1217.
Okay, Krystal, thank you so much for coming on My Little Underground. Absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, we'll keep in touch and maybe we'll catch a show together because there's a lot of music coming up.
Oh yeah, too much. And that's a good thing.
And I mean, I was literally talking on Twitter today and I was like, what are everyone's like shows they want to see? I know I haven't bought any tickets this year for any shows because I'm still very nervous with Corona being raggedy. Yeah. But I would love to see Anti-Flag at some point.
They're playing with Dollskin at the
and Bad Cop,
yeah,
I also really like a lot.
Gramercy Theater. Yeah,
Gramercy Theater. They're amazing. I'd love to see them. I would love to interview Justin Sane. He's been on my radar to interview for a while. Obviously War on Women, love that band. And then Meet Me at the Altar because we have representation in pop punk now for people that look like us. And I was like,
yeah. And that their style ate my bag really, but their good music is good music. They write great songs, and that's
even
it.
if I'm not a fan of like the newer pop punk, the fact that they really write about like you basically dig deeper in some of the lyrics. They're writing about friendship and mental health and all these things, and their story, I mean, if they have a New York Times article out about them, read how they kind of came together. It's awesome. Like, that band's a band I want to see headlining like their own tours and festivals.
It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping they'll headline Summerfest next year. You know, that's a band that I'm really just rooting for hardcore. I'm rooting for Pink Shift. I'm rooting for In the Morning. Amanda's amazing. If you're not following In the Morning, they're In the Morning LA. I mean, to see a pop punk band with an Asian American woman, yes, hell yeah. I'm also rooting for Action Adventure out of Chicago. I think they just got added to Riot Fest a few days ago, or some festival they got added to. I think it's Riot Fest, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh crap, that's like a few weeks away.
It's like
next
week.
Next week. Oh shit. Yeah, what is it, like the 14th,
like
15th?
Literally next week.
Yeah, I know Ganser's playing that, and who else? Yeah.
Alter, Anti-Flag, like a bunch.
Right.
Thursday, Taking Back Sunday. I'm rooting for Barty Strange. He's on tour right now with Phoebe Bridgers and Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah.
And I heard about him through Thursday, because he opened one of their live stream shows, and he's just also fantastic. And he also has a New York connection to us. I mean, there's just so much music that, I mean, from artists of color, BIPOC people, queer folk, that we need to be supporting hardcore, because it's just good and they need the recognition.
Yeah.
Also gonna plug Kitten. I'm pretty sure they're a rapper out of New York. They're amazing. And Goldilocks is also fantastic. Reggaeton artist from Queens. If you haven't listened to Future Famous, you just need to. Like, Goldie's just fire. So
right.
That's,
so you would go to a show, like, would you go to a show if you just threw a mask on, or even if you're vaccinated, like, you know what I mean?
I think venues, and I've put this as an op-ed too.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, good stuff.
I think venues need to be doing more to combat COVID, and they need to be afraid to not piss people off. And if you need to require vaccination and masking, then so do it. Yep. I think many venues are just vaccination only and banking on that, but people are over here dropping fake ass vaccination cards, and no one's wearing a mask at shows. I've seen footage of people at shows, and I'm like, I don't see any masks, like none whatsoever. So I think venues need to be doing a better job of that, or at least vaccination and requiring a negative COVID test.
Yeah, I've seen the Garden do that. The Garden is doing it's all vax only, but they said, okay, you gotta, you know, if you're under like 12 or 16, you have to, I think under 12, you have to show the negative test. So I went to the Foo Fighters show, and you know, you're talking about,
how was that?
Oh my God, it was amazing. They had
Radkey out too for some of their shows, right? They had Radkey on tour with them.
Foos?
I think they had Radkey.
Not at the Garden. They had Dave Chappelle.
Not the Garden, but they did have Radkey out though.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm almost certain it was Radkey. Yeah.
There was, when you're talking about pissing, you know, people off, the vaccination thing has definitely been politicized, which is stupid. The mask thing too. So yeah, hey, listen, if I was, you know, AEG or Live Nation, you gotta be negative. That's a New York City law now. But I agree with the mask, because that, it doesn't matter, because yeah, if you're vaccinated and you get COVID, yeah, you're not going to be sent to the hospital, most likely. But the mask can prevent you even getting a case of COVID. Yep. You know,
I know.
Yeah.
Too many folks who've been breakthrough cases here in New York.
Right.
And most people I know are musicians, because they're playing shows and, you know, they're trying to keep safe, or think they're being safe. And then someone is running around with COVID, and lo and behold, luckily people have gone through it okay. No one's been super sick. But yeah, it's like, I don't understand how venues are just not doing the most when it comes to public health and safety.
The most is key.
Like, this is the time for you to do the most and be extra. I don't understand how it's not happening. Well, I have an idea how, but you need to. So I think that, you know, it's on the venues. And even if the bands, have the power to request it and make it, mandated, do it, like require masking, require vaccination, require negative COVID test if possible. It's not hard to get tested anymore at all. You can literally get tested at a COVID testing truck.
Yeah.
And a CVS and urgent care.
They can, like, these big companies that are putting on the shows, they can spring for some COVID tests. But yeah, I'm going to Rat Boys at Music Hall, and it's indoors. So I'm throwing on the mask or two. I'm going to get another. Yeah, I'm getting another mask.
Double mask it, and also the balcony. Go in the balcony.
Oh, yeah?
Music Hall has a balcony.
Yeah, they do. But I thought that was like roped off for like, okay.
I've been in the balcony for Thursday and Census Fail in the past.
I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing that.
You get in the balcony. Also, Brooklyn Steel has a little balcony area too.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Right.
So one side's kind of like the VIP area. One side is regular.
Doing that.
So get the balcony if you can. Social distance from people.
Of course.
Hopefully
Of course.
everyone around you is masked, and then get tested afterwards. I know I am a safety Sally. I am a safety Sally through and through. So I am like testing weekly because also you take the train. I don't know if you're in the city or not.
Yeah, I am.
So, I mean, you're on the subway, and the subways are going to get crowded soon because the kids are back in school.
Too late. It's already happening.
Yeah. So, you got to get tested, sanitize every damn thing. I wipe my bag down when I come in the house. I wipe my shoes down when I come in the house. Like, I am not playing around. Because, I mean, it's your safety and your health. So why would you play with it?
That's also true. You know what I mean? But yeah, so Krystal, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we'll go to a show when it's safe. Hopefully we won't have to worry about masks by that time. Even if not, I will be double masked. So
I will probably be double masked, and if they'll let me, maybe a face shield. Who knows? I don't know anymore.
Oh man!
Listen, if I could be in a bubble at a concert, I probably would.
Like the Flaming Lips, yeah.
If I could be in a bubble, I probably would. But even musicians, a lot of artists aren't playing shows because they don't feel safe yet.
Yeah, because why would you? I don't know.
A lot of people are not playing shows because they don't feel safe yet, and I think that's a very, very smart move because it's not really, it's not a fully safe time, and we'll see what happens all the fall tours. I'm hoping they all go on, as scheduled and as planned, but they get pushed back. Well, you can't be upset about it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking Back Sunday just announced their holiday shows this year. Do you see that?
Nope.
Taking Back Sunday and Straylight Run.
Okay.
Run, like amazing, and then they have Modern Chemistry with them too, and I was like, that's gonna be a good show. It's gonna be a really good show.
Hopefully it happens.
Hopefully it happens. Yeah. I put on Twitter. I was like, if the act's nice enough, can we get a Brooklyn show?
Wow, they're playing on Long Island or something?
They're playing New Jersey.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But if you want to play a Brooklyn show, I won't be upset. So.
Okay. Cool. All right, Krystal. Thank you again.
Thank you
so much fun talking with you. Yep.
Of course.
Yep.
Stay safe.
You too.